Hi Stitchy friends, my name is Barb. I'm Stitch Brat here on YouTube, Flosstube, and also over on Instagram if you'd like to follow me there. Today is Thursday, November 30th, 2023, and this is Flosstube number 6, I believe. And this is just going to be a regular update Flosstube. I have quite a few things to show you. I have 3 finishes, which I don't know how that happened, but I have 3 finishes. I have 4 new starts after not starting anything, I think, for a couple of months, and I have several whips to show. And I also attended a retreat in November, so although I won't give a whole lot of, details about that, I'll mention it at the end and just say a few words about it. And it'll also come up as I show my whips because I have a couple pieces that I started at the retreat that I wanted to share with you as well. So let's see, I guess without further ado, we'll get started. So I'm going to do my finishes first. And my first finish is this is Wedding Tree, and you may remember if you've watched any of my previous floss tubes, I've been working on this for a few months, and it's a wedding gift for a co-worker, obviously, and her husband who got married in October. I had planned to have it completely framed and given to her by now, but things just got in the way. But in any case, it is finished. And I'll bring it a little closer to the camera. This is stitched on 36 count vintage country mocha linen. I used 4 different variegated shades of DMC floss and then a couple solid shades, an orange and a brown. And I just kind of placed the variegated shades where I thought the leaves of those different colors should go. And I really like how it came out. The pattern is from Nikki Pattern on Etsy, and she has quite a few really nice wedding and announcement patterns and things like that. And I highly recommend looking through her things if you're looking for something like that. So my plan is to get that fully finished. I got to buy a frame for it, and then it's small, so it'll fit in an 8 by 10 frame. So I will get that framed, which I think I can do myself, okay, and give it to her. So hopefully I will have done that by next time I see you. Okay, my next finish is this is Ladybird, and I just finished her I think just a couple days ago, and I posted her on Instagram. And she is one of a set of 4 birds in the pattern from Nikki Pattern again on Etsy, and they're all kind of this stylized look, and they use the same color palette. And I've stitched 3 of them, so I actually brought all 3 to show, although I don't think I can really kind of show them together, but I'll show them one by one. All of mine were stitched on 18 count natural, light oatmeal Aida. I had a big piece of this 18 count Aida because I was replacing some fabric in a kit, and so I had some leftover pieces, and of course these don't take very much. So this is Ladybird, and then I had previously finished this one, which I think I showed on a previous floss too, but this is Admiral Bird, and these are my nicknames that I gave these. She just calls them birds 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's Admiral, the Admiral, and then this is Larry Bird. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with them yet. I might put them in round frames or oval frames or something like that. or I might think of something completely different to do with them. I'm actually a little bit undecided on that. So if you have any good ideas about what I could do, let me know. And a couple people on Instagram asked me if I was going to stitch the fourth bird, and I'm going to guess that I probably will do that at some point. I'm not sure when. They're fun to stitch and they're pretty quick. So, and I also have all the threads, all ready to go. So maybe sometime soon. Okay, and now for the big finish, my one big finish is, this is Carrot Cake by Karla Manning. And let's see, I'll try to grab this for my screenshot. Grabbing a screenshot where you actually look good when you're talking is much more difficult than what you might think. Freezing a video just really doesn't work very well. Okay, so this is Carrot Cake. This is one of Karla Manning's shooting star designs, and this one obviously is kind of autumnal colors. And I had actually been trying to get this into place or at a point where I could finish it at the retreat that I attended, but I didn't quite get there. I got pretty close and I worked on it quite a bit at the retreat, but I couldn't quite get it finished. But I finished it when I got home a few days later, so here's what she looks like, a little bit closer. I've said before, and many times, Karla Manning is one of my favorite designers, and I just love the shooting star designs. I've stitched several of them before, and I'm stitching them all on 32 count Lugana 2/2, and this one is on I believe it's called light taupe Lugana, and I just used the called for colors and didn't change a thing. And those are, my plan is that I'll stitch several more of those, because I have several more in process, and eventually they'll all be finished into pillows, and that's why one reason I want to stitch them all in the same fabric, so they end up to be the same size. Okay, I mentioned that I had 4 new starts, which I do, but instead of doing those separately, I'm just gonna, as they come up in my whips, I'll talk about them. And also, I have really sketchy notes today. I usually like to have a good reminder of what I wanted to say, and I was not able to print off my notes on the printer today, so I have sort of a little handwritten thing, which should be okay, because I think I remember most of the details about my projects. But if I don't, and I forget something and you want to know it, just leave me a comment and I'll see what I can find. Okay, so my first whip I usually show is my Scrabble board, and this is from Vivian Powers Vivsters on Etsy, and she has a whole series of game boards, and this is one of them. And I'm doing the traditional, or colorway, although she has an alternative colorway. But here's where we are in Scrabble. And I wish I could say I was finished or almost finished, but I'm not. And there's more to go than what it looks like. I am on the last 2 columns. Obviously I'm working down here. But once those are done, this kind of black edging here, it's between all of the rows. That gets filled in between all the rows and all the tiles. So that alone is going to take a little while, and then I have some ideas for some additional embellishments. The chart called for all of these, these gold blocks to be done in, it was either Acrylic or something like Acrylic, and I just decided I didn't need to do that, so I just used a gold floss. But I do kind of like the idea of blinging up the board a little bit, so I think I am going to do that. I'm just not exactly sure what I'm going to do. I did buy some beads, so we'll see. We'll see what I come up with when the time comes. And excuse me, I'm just going to do a loose fold of things, or I don't want to become too, I got to have at least a neat, somewhat neat pile. Okay. Okay. All right, my next whip is, okay, I think I don't have a picture of this one, so I'm going to have to insert a picture here. This is the Carolyn Manning Star Touched Meadow Stitch Along. And this officially started in November. I think I started the frames before that. So I have all the frames for all the months done. And what these are is mini shooting star designs, one for each month, with the colors representing flowers that are indicative of that month. So here's where I am on, this is, I have all the frames done, as I said, and then this is November, the November block. And I don't know, I'm maybe, well, I'm not half done, maybe a third done or close to it. This is very fun to stitch. It's actually a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, trickier to stitch than the regular shooting stars because everything is just miniaturized. So I just have found that I've made a few mistakes just by placing something where I thought it should go, and then I look at the chart again and no, it doesn't go there. So I have to pay a little bit more attention with this. But obviously I'm not going to get this done by the end of the month, and probably I won't be able to keep up completely with this SAL because with this stitch along, because these are 77 by 77 blocks and they're all full coverage, and that's quite a bit of, that's like 6,000 stitches or something, and that's quite a bit for a month for me with the other things I stitch. So I'm just going to try to get as far ahead as as much as I can done, and we'll just see how it goes as I go along. I'm stitching this on, this is 18 count, it's a pale pink Aida, and I kind of went with an 18 count fabric because I didn't want this to be super huge. I'll show you the whole thing. I mean, it's pretty big as it is, just on the 18 count. And I couldn't find 36. I would have preferred to use linen, but I couldn't find any 36 count pink, at least light pink linen when I was looking. So the Aida was a good low-cost alternative, so that worked out fine. And I'm using just the called for colors on that. And the November block, I think, is based on the chrysanthemum. So those colors are chrysanthemum colors. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay. Next is a new start. And this is okay. This is one of the Floral Fantasy kits from Mill Hill. And this one is it says Floral Yellow number 2. And that's because there's a number 1. And there's also, I believe, Floral Blue 1 and 2. And I think I've bought one of the blue ones, but this is the one that I've started. Sorry, I can't get the glare off there. This is a Mill Hill kit, but unlike a lot of Mill Hill kits, this one is not on perforated paper. This one is on 14 count Aida. It's on 14 count pale yellow Aida, actually. And that's a small, just hold it up. And here's where I am. I just started that kind of one of the flowers on the bottom. And I wanted to start with one of the flowers that didn't have a huge amount of beads. Some of the other ones have more. Just because I wanted to see how the stitching went and see, to see how the fabric and the floss looked and all that. So I'm stitching this because Brenda, Handwork Maniac, if you are familiar with her, and if you're not, you should be, She stitched this last year and I just fell in love with it. And like I do most of the things that she stitches, I wanted to stitch it. So I bought the kit and I just hadn't started it, but I finally got around to starting it. So, and I'll just show you the threads for this because they're just beautiful. The colors are just so pretty. And I actually braided these. I braided the threads on the thread card for a picture that I was taking to post on Instagram. And I discovered that you can actually pull your threads off even with the threads braided together. So it kind of keeps them nice and neat. So I've been leaving them that way. So that's 14 count yellow Aida on that one. And I'm not very far, obviously, but no hurry on that one. All right. And my next whip, excuse me, I've got a beverage here to keep my throat moist. Okay, this is Circus of Circles by Ink Circles. And this is, Tracy has a whole series of circus of different shapes. There's hearts and triangles and squares and I'm not sure what else. But this is the first one I've done, but I hope to do more because I really like all of these designs. And I like Ink Circles designs anyway. And I think this one is going to be easier if I just hold it up too. So here's where I am. I actually have a fair amount done. It's going to blow out the color when I bring it closer to the camera, but I will just so you can see for just a minute. And obviously this is the real, black is the real color there. I'm stitching this with on 16 count black Aida. I can't do black linen. I just can't do it. But black Aida is actually really easy because you can feel the holes on Aida as well as, I mean, even if you can't see them, you can feel them. You just find them with your needle. It's not like linen. It's much easier. So I can stitch on black Aida just fine. So that's what I'm doing here. And this is a variegated silk floss from Dyeing for Cross Stitch. And I'll just show you the floss. It's quite beautiful. Dyeing for Cross Stitch she dyes both fabric and floss, silk and cotton, and she has some really beautiful colors. I recently bought some of her variegated cottons. I haven't tried them yet, but her silks are very affordable. They're a little bit fragile to work with, so you do have to be careful, but if you're looking for a silk that honestly doesn't completely break the bank to do a project with, hers will do it. Now, she doesn't do a ton of colors, so they're mostly variegated colors, so you'd probably want to choose a design, something like what I did, but it's a very cost-efficient alternative. Okay. My next whip is, this is Remember Me by Teresa Kogut. And I started this when it was a Patreon release, but it's now, I mean, it came out last year, I think. And it's been very popular. I've seen tons of people stitching this, and you can see why. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I worked a fair amount on this month, but I also made some mistakes. And I had really a month of mistakes for some reason. And I can't remember exactly now where the mistake was I made, but I ended up having to rip some things out, which I wasn't really happy about. But so here's where I am on Remember Me. And I had hoped to be farther than this. I was going to try to get those words done, but I don't know. Do we ever get as far on projects as what we hope to get? So of course what attracted me about this was that fantastic floral border with these just beautiful fully stitched flowers. I mean, the flowers are all full coverage, and they're just, I mean, they're so impactful when you see them. They're just so pretty. I'm stitching this on a Legacy linen by Access Commodities. It's a 37 count linen called Wild Honey. And this is really this is a pretty good, maybe there. There's a slight like pinkish or tone to the background of this fabric. And it just suits the colors really well. It's beautiful fabric. And I'm using all of the called for colors except I think there were just a few fancy flosses or, like weeks and stuff that Teresa called for, and I'm just using the DMC for all of those. I'm not using the fancy floss for any of it. And I'm hoping to work on that one some more again soon too. Okay, this one I do not have a picture of, so I will have to pop in a picture here. This is Quaker's Pride by Historische Stickmuster, and their patterns used to be kind of hard to find, but they're really not anymore. They're much more widely available, and thank goodness, because they just have some beautiful things. And I brought this one to the retreat with me, and I did work on it there. So I got some work done there and some after as well. So here's where I am on this. I knew that was going to happen if I didn't clip it, sorry. This is big. It doesn't really look like I have that much done, but I really have worked on this a lot. There's just a lot of motifs, and if you've ever done a Quaker, some of those motifs can take a really long time to finish up. At the retreat, I believe I worked in this area over here. I'm stitching this on a 36 count linen that's called, I believe it's called Stone Gray. It's a Zweigart linen. And whatever the suggested color was I couldn't find it at the time, so I ended up getting this Stone Gray. And because of that, I did change one of the floss colors. Here's the floss colors. There's only 4 colors. But I changed the gray because the called for gray was the wrong tone on my fabric. Grays can either be cool toned or warm toned, and this is more warm, and the other gray just didn't look right, so I did have to change that. But other than that, I'm using everything called for, and I'm stitching that 2/2 as I do most things. Excuse me for a second. I've got a falling pile here. I want to rescue it before it falls too far. Okay, this is another new start. And this is a start, one of my starts at the retreat. So the retreat was in Monroe, Michigan, and it was put on by RETM, the designer, her store, which is Riverview Stitching. And this is the pattern that she gave to us as this was exclusive to the retreat. So this is called Stitching in the Mitten 2023. And I just love this design. So a friend and I, a friend that I met at the retreat, and I decided to, we split a piece of fabric that we liked, and we both started this, but we used different, we went completely different ways with our floss or with our threads. So, well, I'll show you my piece first and then I'll show you the threads. So here's where I am. I just have a bit of the, I just have maybe, I don't know, 2/3 of the Upper Peninsula done. And this is on a piece of fabric that was dyed by Ari's daughter, Laura, who dyes fabric that she sells at Riverview Stitching. And she had some beautiful fabrics. And this one was, I mean, she called it like mystery meat or something, which just means, which she explained just meant it wasn't a one that she was going to duplicate. It was just kind of a one-off. So the color is, it's kind of showing up gray on camera, but it's not gray. It's actually, it's got a greenish, I don't know, it's not showing up. It's greenish, and it's really pretty. And the modeling is really pretty too. Laura does a really good job. So the floss I'm using for this is this. It's 2 colors of Karen Wildflowers floss, and I've never used this before, but it's really the thickness probably of like a pearl cotton. So I'm using 1 strand over 2 threads of linen, and this is 36 count linen, and it's a tight fit, like I'm pushing it doing that. But here's what they look like on the skein. But the colors are beautiful, and then this beige color is going to go in the other areas. And I have my floss on these little floss drops that were given to me by my friend Gail that I met prior to the retreat, and then we stitched together at the retreat. She has a shop on Etsy that I will link. It's GWStitchinDepot, and she sells all kinds of acrylic. Well, she sells supplies for cross stitch, but one of her specialties is acrylic goodies, and she sells both acrylic bobbins and floss drops, and I believe these she calls slim chips, and they're narrow, but they've got a nice big hole for your skein of floss to go through, and then she includes this little additional hole so that if you have a piece left over and you don't want to use it all, you have a place to put it, and it's convenient and doesn't take up too much room. So, and there's plenty of room for a label, or I'm assuming you could write like with a Sharpie or something, and it would come off with alcohol or something later too, because I do that with regular bobbins. I'm sure it would work with this. But in any case, I will link Gail's shop below. I highly recommend these. I actually don't use many floss drops. I'm mostly a bobbin person, but when I have something that just has maybe 2 or 3 colors, you know, it can be really convenient to just have your floss on a floss drop and just put everything all in the bag together. So that's what I did on that. And that isn't a huge pattern, even though it's fully stitched. So I would like to get going on that, or keep going on that too. Gail got much farther than I did at the actual retreat. She had the whole Upper Peninsula done and was working on the fill-in, and she'd started the Lower Peninsula too, I think. But I posted that on Instagram, and several people who were either Michiganders or new Michiganders asked me whether that pattern was ever going to be released, and I did ask Ori that at the retreat, and she said it was going to be exclusive. She wasn't planning to release it. So I'm sorry about that. It's a great pattern. I love it. She has a real talent for those Quaker designs. Okay, my next whip is another stitch along and another piece inspired by Brenda, Handwork Maniac. This is the Jardin Privé birdhouses Sal. Well, shoot. You'll have to watch Brenda's video to get all the Sal information. I think it's Oct to Oct Sal because they do it October to October. And there's a group of them that meet at Stitch West and they do a Sal for that. And this is this year's Sal. So, like if you look at the pattern, there's a little birdhouse that sort of represents each month or is themed for each month. So I think most people were starting with the November little birdhouse, which I guess would be this one. But I just decided to start with January. So, and I'm not sure how closely I'm going to keep up with this, but I'm going to try because the sections are not huge to stitch. So I'm going to try to keep up with it. And having said that, I do not have the November section done, but but I'm going to keep working on it. But here's where I am. And it's not very big up and down. It's, you know, it's a wide pattern. Now, what is not showing up at all is that I have that whole post done, which is white. In person, you can see the post of the birdhouse pretty well. The fabric on camera just really makes the whole thing blow out. I had a different fabric chosen for this, but when I was at the retreat, I found this, and this is one of Laura's fabrics. And I just fell in love with it because to me, it just, like, look at this, it just looks like the sky. So I thought this would be great for the birdhouses. So I did worry about the white blending in too much. And like I said, in person, it really doesn't, and you can see it. So, but in the end, if I decide that some of the white I can't see well enough, I guess I can always backstitch. That dreaded word, backstitch. But that's a 36 count linen again, and this calls for all DMC colors, I believe, and I'm stitching it 2 threads over, or 2 strands of floss over 2 threads of linen, which, as I said, is what I usually do. Okay, what do we have next here? Okay, this is another Carolyn Manning shooting star design, and I don't have a picture of this one, so I will pop one in here. This is a Christmas themed design, and this is called Please Be Home for Christmas. And I think I started this last December, I believe. And I really had not worked on it very much at all. I got a little start on it, maybe got a corner done, and I basically didn't work on it all year. And even though I always say I'm not a seasonal stitcher, this has been calling to me, and I've just been having so much fun stitching it. So I've actually worked quite a bit on it. I love all the different greens and reds in this and how they're combined, and I just think it's just beautiful. So the fabric is 32 count Lugana again, and this is, I believe it's either green or light green, maybe light green Lugana. Stitching 2 over 2, and again I'm just using all the called for colors. They're all DMC colors. And I noticed on Instagram there's several people who are stitching this, which is great because I don't think, when I had started this last year, I don't think I'd ever seen anybody stitch it before. So I was really happy to see other people stitching it. And I probably will keep working on that because I've just been really into the Christmas stitching lately for some unknown reason. Okay, let me see where I am. Did I miss something? Okay. All right, my next whip is Alice in Wonderland, and this is by Donna Stitch. And Donna Stitch is, I believe, a Korean designer, and they have a shop. She has a shop on Etsy, and she does a lot of fairy tale type themed designs, and this is one of them. And I'm stitching this with Karla, Stitch Me Sane. She and I started this last November, and I should have worked more on it, but I haven't worked that much on it. And Karla's been working on hers, so I felt guilty. So I pulled mine out. And I actually I got a fair amount done. Here's where I am on Alice. So we also started a SAL for this, so if you were stitching anything related to Alice in Wonderland, doesn't have to be a Donna Stitch, it can be any Alice in Wonderland project, please join us. It's the Everything Alice SAL, hashtag Everything Alice SAL. And I got the Cheshire Cat there, some of his tail filled in, and then I've been working on that big red filled solid section above the Cheshire Cat there. So the Donna Stitch patterns are all almost complete full coverage. I mean, there's bits that aren't stitched, but they're actually pretty intense stitching. Oh, I'm stitching that on 32 count white opalescent Lugana, and I will not probably stitch on opalescent Lugana again, or an opalescent even weave. Opalescent linen is easier because I think you can see the holes easier, but because Lugana, every fiber is exactly the same, thickness and width, those opalescent fibers just really play havoc with your eyes. It can be hard to count on it, and hard to stitch on it too. For me, the best thing is to stitch on it during the day. So that's a good weekend project when I actually stitch, when I have some time and I can stitch in the morning or during the day. Okay, and my last whip is also a new start. And I don't have a picture of this one either, so I will pop one in here. This is Christmas Cat, and this is by Barbara Anna Designs. And I believe that this is a new release. I saw Barbara Anna post this. She posted the release of this on Instagram, and I was immediately smitten, and I was like, I have to stitch that. It's just the cutest thing. Her cats are so cute anyway, but this one just really spoke to me. So here's my start. This is a couple days work. So I got the little kitty's face done. And look how cute she is. Oh, I just love her little face. So this is also a piece of linen that I actually got at the retreat. This was in our swag bag, or my swag bag. I think we could choose either linen or Ada, so I chose linen. And this again is not really photographing very well. It's actually this is like an aqua blue, and the camera is making it like a darker blue-gray, and it's not blue-gray. It's an aqua color. It's bright. It's very pretty. And again, this is one of Laura's fabrics, so you can see. But it turned out I measured, and this piece was the perfect size for Christmas Cat. So I decided that would be a great use for that fabric. All right, that is all my whips. So let's see where I am. Okay, I guess I just wanted to say just a couple words about the retreat. As I mentioned, it was Riverview Stitching, and it was held at a hotel that was nearby. And it was a small retreat, but we just had a wonderful time, and Ari and Laura and everybody else who helped just really did a wonderful job and treated us all like royalty. Most of our meals were included. And she was big on getting meals from like local small businesses like bakeries and things, which I think is really wonderful. And there were some classes offered, and I did take one of the classes, which was a project bag class, and I made this lovely project bag. Oh boy, glare. But Teresa Kogut fabrics. So what was really wonderful about this class was the class was individual. We each got a scheduled 1 hour time with the teacher that taught the class, and we made the project bag in that hour. Obviously all the materials were cut out, and then she guided us through everything that we had to do. And I mean, I'm a fairly accomplished seamstress, but I had never actually made a project bag before. I was a little bit, I don't know, I was nervous about stitching on vinyl, and I mean, I don't have any problem with zippers and things, but you know, I mean, there's some tricks and things. So she gave some great tips, but I just love the personal attention of a class like that where it was just us for an hour. I mean, it was really wonderful. And I'm not sure what I'm going to put in my project bag yet, but I'm very, very happy about it. And I'll just show you a couple things too that I got at the retreat. So Laura, I mentioned her daughter Laura dyes fabrics, and she sells them at the shop at Riverview Stitching, and she had sort of a trunk show of all her fabrics there. So I bought the piece that I showed you that I'm doing stitching in the mitten on, but I also bought this, and I know this is not going to show up very well because this actually has sort of a green cast as well. It's not really gray, it's more of it does have a gray tone to it, but it's more green. And this is called, I think it's called Dirty Floors, which she has the most inventive names. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. It's very heavily modeled, but I love these in particular. Like, I love these speckles that she does. Like, it really does look like a dirty floor, or, you know, one that needs mopping. So it's pretty heavily modeled, so I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I've got a fat quarter, so I have enough for 2 small projects or 1 bigger one, and I will definitely be on the lookout for something to do with that. There was also sort of a trunk show of JBW, Judy Whitman patterns, and there were all kinds of models and finishes of her things there. And I had a hard time containing myself. I just bought a couple of things. So I'll just show you what I got. I got this little pattern, and it's hard to see, but there's little leaves in between the alphabet. And I saw this, the model there was done as a Christmas ornament. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. Make sure the pattern isn't showing. It looks like they had this model there. And I just fell in love with it. I mean, the red and green and finished that way, it was just beautiful. So I just may have to stitch that. And also all of Judy's books were there with her. She has these ornament books that each have like, what, 20 ornaments in them. And I think this is the newest one, 5. But I just looked at all the pictures on the front, and this one had like several, like I especially love her little trees, and this one had several of her little trees and her little wreaths, so this is the one I ended up bringing home. So I'm going to try to get maybe a couple ornaments stitched up still before Christmas. Well, we'll see how that goes. The season's already upon us, isn't it? Okay. But I guess the only other thing I'd want to say about the retreat is this was the first retreat I've ever been to, and just what everybody says, it was fantastic. I mean, it's so It's amazing how easy it is to make friends and to talk to people when you share a hobby, because normally I am not an outgoing person, and I mean, I can make small talk at parties or whatever, but I'm not a person that just goes up to people and meets them and, you know, introduces myself and stuff. But somehow when you share a hobby, something you truly love, there it just happens. You know, somebody remarks on something you're stitching on, or you notice something somebody else is stitching on, and all of a sudden you're having a deep conversation about something. And I met so many wonderful ladies over that weekend. So if you haven't been to a retreat and you can go to one near you, or far away, depending on if you want to travel, I highly recommend it, and I'm definitely planning on repeating that experience. Gail and I both said when we got home we were smiling from ear to ear, and the smile didn't go away for quite a long time. So it was a wonderful experience, and there's just really nothing like being with other people who share your love of a particular hobby and sort of being immersed in it for several days like that. It was just really, really wonderful. I highly recommend. Okay, so my December plans and beyond, I guess. I'm going to get that. I have to frame the wedding piece. I'm going to try to get some Christmas ornaments stitched, and I may also start this. This is the Skating Santa stocking, and this is by, yeah, this is Carriage House Samplings, not Kathy Barrick. Carriage House Samplings, but sorry, I have to kind of turn this to keep the glare off, but I just fell in love with this when I saw it, and I thought I would like to do some decorative stockings, and the other ones I have are actually not Christmas themed, and I just love this one. So I went ahead and I need a couple flosses left, but but I've got most of them, and I've got a couple different fabric choices. So probably, I mean, I may not start that right away, but sometime in December, I'm hoping to start that. And then I haven't really thought about the new year yet. That can wait. So it's a weeknight, so I'm gonna just end this here and not jabber too much, and really not do a teeny topic since I talked about the retreat. But we're entering into the busy Christmas season, and I don't know about you, but it's really easy for me to get overwhelmed with just everything about the season, even though I try to keep it simple. You know, in real life, it's hard to make simple work. So I would just say at this time of year, more even than any other, just remember to slow down, take a deep breath, and take life one stitch at a time. And I will see you in hopefully a few weeks. And I may try to do a whip parade, but I'm not going to promise. The whip parade might end up being in January, but we'll see how it goes. So until I see you again, happy holidays, and see you soon. Bye-bye.